going on, everybody? My name is Jamie Cheerio, and I'm here with the founder of Liberty Networking, Mr. Jimmy Sorrells. How we doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Awesome. And we are here with our special guest, Mr. Altaf Kapasi. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in, and welcome to the Liberty Lounge. This podcast is really for the members of Liberty Networking who are trying to, learn how to grow a network, but also, giving the members of Liberty Networking a chance to be able to share, their stories, what they're passionate about, their lessons, and we're so excited to have Altaf here in the room, and he is the founder of, founder, president, CEO. What do you go by?
Yeah, president and founder.
President and founder of the American Glass Company. We'd love to just have you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into business, and how you got here.
Okay, awesome, man. First of all, I want to appreciate y'all for having me.
Sure.
It's a huge honor being here, especially in front of you two. I actually grew up in the glass industry.
Okay.
My parents or family owns a very successful glass business. My grandfather started a glass business back in 1975. So growing up, I actually grew up in it, right? My summers I would work there. And I did something different from after I graduated college for about 6-7 years. Then I found myself back home after I told my parents I would never come back home.
Right.
So I came back home working for the family business for about 4.5 years. And when I was working for them, I found a different passion. They're mainly commercial based, and that's focused. And when I was working for them, I realized how much I loved working in residential. And something they didn't do was shower glass. Mm-hmm. And I really, really enjoyed that because, when you have an old bathroom from the 1980s, 70s, whatever time frame it is, you put up new tile and you put up the glass on it, it just changes the entire bathroom.
You see that transformation. Right? I see your pictures all the time. Yeah, that's good.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
It's super ironic just because the shower door business in general, glass, you don't think of that as a business every day that you comes to top of mind. But one of my college roommates, he was in the exact same business back when I lived in Michigan. So I've actually helped him install shower glass, and my brother and I, it was some special glass. We hit the corner of the glass, and it just absolutely exploded and shattered all over this bathroom, and we were mortified. But
how many cuts have you actually gotten over the years?
Oh, I've had a few. Thankfully, knock on wood, nothing's exploded on me except one time when I was doing a bathroom demo.
Yeah.
They silicone the glass all in place, and I couldn't get it out, so I went to leverage it and pull it. It literally blew up in my face.
Oh no.
So I had cuts everywhere on it, but it was no big deal.
The hazards of the industry.
That's right. Yeah. So what was it like, talking to your parents about hey, I'd like to shift from this commercial model into, I want to do something more residential? Were they resistant to that at all? Were they this is our business, this is what we know?
Yeah. So it was a very interesting conversation, actually. I told my dad that, and obviously, he was upset because he wanted me to take over or, have partnership with, my dad and uncle have partnership in the business, right? Mm-hmm. So he wanted me to take over his portion of it, and I was going down a different route, and I saw a different future for myself. And so, honestly, my dad didn't talk to me for the first week or two after I started my own business.
Wow.
But then we had a conversation. I sat down and talked to him. I was like, listen, would you rather me fail today while you're still around, or would you rather me fail in the future when you're not here? Mm. And I think that really hit home for him. And then from after that, he realized, just let me do my own thing for a while.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Talk to us a little bit about so obviously, you got a chance to, follow your dad and your uncle. You were part of an established business, but then going out on your own. I mean, at that point, you had, I guess, the emotional support, but you had to build this thing from the ground up. Yeah. Talk to us about some of the lessons that you've maybe learned starting something from scratch.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that because, a lot of people think that because you're working for someone, it's so easy to start a new business, what they're doing, and just start running with it, right? It takes years for, to get that credibility and get people to trust you, especially with their shower glass. I see once I started doing it, then I realized why my family business didn't do the shower glass, because it's so different in so many aspects, right? Shower glass, if you're out of 1/8 of an inch, it could possibly ruin the entire shower. Yeah. Right. In storefront, you have a little bit more wiggle room, and you could caulk it out, and you won't be able to tell the difference, right? Yeah. So it was very interesting. So it took me a while to get started, a lot longer than I thought. Honestly, it took probably about 2 or 3 months to really get going because of that fact. People didn't know who I was. They just knew I was a Kapasi, right? So that's how that helped me get started as well, because they trusted the name, the brand that my family's created.
Yeah, people know that name, that's for sure. Yeah. So how long have you officially been in business now?
So in June, it'll be 3 years. So
okay.
A little over 2.5 years right now.
Yeah. And then also the transition from going from commercial business owners to maybe they own or they rent the building, to a homeowner who you are in their bathroom, their master bathroom, the most precious room in their house. And I mean, what was the difference in like working with like, did you have like the housewife over your shoulder to make sure you weren't messing up versus the business owners like, you guys got this, you know, I'll come check in on you in a couple days?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like exactly that. You know, it's a lot more different, right? Like I was running the residential city service department for my dad and them, so they do fix like windows and mirrors and stuff like that for the business. So I kind of understood how to go along that fact when, you know, talking to business owners. I mean, sorry, not business owners, to residential consumers. So again, it's very detailed, right? So a lot of times when the contractor doesn't include the glass in their price when they're doing the work, because of the cost of glass. That's a lot of people don't realize how expensive glass is, especially nowadays.
And it goes up and down a lot, right?
It really does. And it shot up during COVID, and I don't see it going back down, honestly. And that's what people are just shocked about. Like, well, everything else has gone down. Well, like, glass didn't shoot up until, like, you know, a year later. And then when it did, it went up by 20, 30, 40%. And all of our suppliers gave us 5-day notice. They say we're only honoring glass quotes for 5 days, and then everything else is the new price, right? So, I mean, a lot of people are a lot more detailed. When you're working in their house, in their bathrooms, you know, they're there every single day. So when they're taking a shower, they're looking at all the fine details and make sure everything's right and good, right? So I had to, you know, that was another thing I had to overcome was those obstacles of paying attention to every single detail that I did, which was very, I mean, good process and good learning experience. And, you know, it's funny because, like, my wife's an engineer, right? And for business owners, you know, most people only need, 10 to 20% to know, to be able to figure it out, right? An engineer, you need to give them 80 to 90% facts, otherwise they're going to be asking you 100 questions, right? So it's basically the same concept of going through commercial storefront and then going to the residential shower glass, right? I had to give a lot more detail, a lot more patience. Like, the process of getting it ordered was a lot longer than getting it installed. You know, installing a shower usually takes about 2 to 3 hours, and then I'm done, right? Depending on how big the shower is, sometimes it'll take 4 to 5.
But you got to communicate that with the customers and all that.
Exactly. So the back end process of doing a shower glass is actually probably a lot longer than actually the install process.
I think that's a good transition because there's probably a lot of people on here that they work in some form of like a service-based business, working in people's homes. I mean, that could be anything from power washing their driveway to installing a deck to remodeling a bathroom or building their entire home. What advice do you maybe have for somebody out there on how they can best give clients good expectations? Because I think that's where most business goes wrong is, you know, we overpromise and underdeliver. So what does that look like when, you know, you're talking to someone about how they can best give someone good expectations?
Yeah, I would just, you know, be upfront and honest from the get-go. You know, there's nobody out there that runs a business the same way, right? Yeah. If you go to, you know, the next glass guy, he has a completely different process that works best for him, right? So I would just recommend telling the customer, hey, look, this is how we do things. This is step 1, 2, and 3. This is what your expectations are. And these are the, you know, warranties or whatever it may be, and then just go from there. Just lay your process out for them.
Have you had any experiences that taught you the hard way on how to set proper expectations, like anything where you did maybe overpromise and underdeliver, and then you had to go back and make it right?
Yeah, I mean, I see communication. That was probably my biggest downfall. Is like, you know, I'm straight to the point, blunt. You know, like I do leave a lot of details out, and I've noticed that. So I'm getting better at that. But, you know, just communicate. At the end of the day, you got to remember you're working on people's first, like, their biggest investment, right? Their house. They live in that every single day. They see it every single day. So they want to know what's going on. You know, some people are okay with not knowing, right? They trust you after a while, but it takes time to build that reputation, right? And people just be like, okay, great, you know what you're doing. Some of my repeat customers are like that. You know, they know I know what they want. They know what I'm doing. So we just, you know, they say yes and we keep going on. But, you know, especially the first time you're working with somebody, you got to lay down all the details. Give them everything from start to finish.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. Well, tell us something surprising that nobody or maybe interesting about you that since anybody listening to this podcast might not know about you.
Man, that's tough. You know, I'm a pretty open guy. So if somebody asks me, I usually tell them. But you know, there's a few things that really helped me getting my business started, right? One was coaching. I didn't realize that coaching would have this much of an impact on not just my business, but my personal life and my personal development. And I think that's a downfall that a lot of people don't realize. And, you know, one thing I do want to say to that is make sure you vet your coach.
Yeah, that's good.
There's a lot of people that are just opening up and thinking that coaching is so easy, but they don't have experience in your industry, right? There's coaches for everything, literally everything. Just know what they're doing, know how they're doing things, and just ask the right questions. And you should be able to know, right, if this coach is, you know, good for you or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more detailed the niche of the coach, I mean, better for you. But then also, like, the more detailed the niche of the coach, typically the more expensive the coach is because they have that expertise. I mean, I saw something, and it was some article, and they were like, if you were putting out a course online about how to be more efficient with your time, maybe you could charge $20 for it. But if you said, I'm putting out how to be more efficient with your time for contractors, you could charge $1,000 for it. But if it's, I'm putting out a course on how to be more efficient with your time for contractors in the glass industry, you could charge $10,000 if you have the right person. So it's about like the niche, but then also backing it up with like, do they have the results to actually be able to coach you? Because anybody can put out an info product or say that they can coach you. There was something that I learned way back in the day. It's like, who do you listen to? You listen to people who, number one, have what you want. There's a lot of people out there that have what you want. But number two, they started where you started. So if you got someone who started in a totally different industry and maybe they make the money you want to make, are they really the best person to coach you? So they have what you want, they started where you started, and then they are the type of person you want to become. I think that's the big one that I've learned, because if you have the right person who's got all the results in your industry, but they're like a horrible husband and father, like all these things, you're like behind the scenes, like, do I really want to be coached by that person? So, I mean, just finding the right coach is
And
huge.
what kind of success does a coach had, right? Yeah, like, have they never owned a business, but they're coaching businesses? There might be,
and
you know.
Yeah, and another thing is, like, you know, there's some people out there that, you know, they've been in business for a year, so they think that entitles them to you know, start their own coaching gig. It doesn't work like that. Especially after COVID, you know, a lot of business, especially in this area, have just exploded. So they haven't really had the failures most people have, right?
Yeah.
You can't really coach and help people out of their problems if you've never had any issues yourself.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So can you have different coaches for different things, more than one coach at one time?
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. You know, there's a health and fitness coach out there, right? There's coaches to help you with your marriage. There's coaches to help you with your business. There's coaches to help you with your personal life.
That's good.
There's coaches to help you with your finances, right? So just having the right person, you know, knowing what you need first of all,
that's key.
is extremely important.
For sure.
Yeah. So somebody who's 500 pounds probably shouldn't coach you on your fitness. Somebody who is divorced 4 times shouldn't coach you on your marriage. And someone who's never owned a service-based business that deals with clients in their homes and been successful at it probably shouldn't coach you on how to build that type of business, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
That's huge. I've got so many friends who are coaches, and when I came up in business, a lot of us, we saw these videos from these marketing gurus, and they were like, start your own digital marketing agency, and here's how you do it. You get 10 businesses to pay you $1,000 a month, and you'll make $10,000 a month. And it was like, before we even knew any skill set behind anything, it was like, just tell them you're going to run Facebook ads. And it was like, all these people saw dollar signs. And I think that's the same thing sometimes in the coaching industry, because I have friends who their business is they coach coaches on how to be coaches. It's not even like coaching specific business owners. They're like, hey, pick a niche, and you're going to coach this niche. So I have some coaching PTSD from different experiences that I've had. But there are legit coaches out there. Like, are you willing to like share who your coach is?
Yeah, so I use Mike Claudio and his team with win rate. Mike Claudio has about 5 or 6 coaches, and every single one of those coaches is great at something different. That's what I love about their organization.
And they're currently running businesses too, right?
Yeah, every one of those coaches are.
Exactly, yeah.
And Mike has a very successful background in business.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes sense.
In construction.
In construction.
It's
There you go.
specific.
Specific, yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I think just anybody out there who is looking for a coach, I mean, just follow his advice of
and what
make sure
about
you vet him.
and not that you're becoming a coach, but you're being coached as a mentorship. So talk about you taking that knowledge that you're learning and passing it on and mentoring in some. How important is that?
Oh man, of course, like I don't think coaching like people my age is for me,
right?
Because there's so many great coaches out there, and like when you get in front of stage for like Mike Claudia and Sam, which Sam is my coach right now through win rate, but they move the stage when they get on there. When you hear them speak, like I'm ready to get up and walk through a concrete wall.
That's right.
Bro. It's insane, right? So like I know that I can probably never make that type of impact on people our age, right? People like, so I actually mentor for Fire Pit Ranch.
That's
and
awesome.
I mentor the younger generation.
Yeah.
I love kids, man. I've always had, my thing about it is that's our future,
right?
There's people like for example, one of my good friends has 4 kids, right? And not that she's not a good parent, right? But she knows that one of her children is like hanging out with the wrong crowd, right? So she knows she has to jump on it now.
Yep.
And I think, in my opinion, that's the difference between a good parent and a great parent.
Sure.
Realizing that your child, and sucking up your ego, and realizing your child needs some help and needs it immediately, and getting out there and putting them in front of the right people that may not listen to their mom and dads, right? That's who I was. I never, if my parents told me something, I wasn't going to listen to them, right? But when somebody else told me the exact same thing that wasn't them, I'm all for it, right?
I experience that daily with my kids.
Yeah, so like, and it's great, man. I love taking a lot of things. Obviously, I got to take it to another level when I speak to them, but I do take a lot of the things that I learn out in the professional field to these kids, right? Because they all want to be leaders. They all want to be able to do things. They all want to play sports, or they all want to do certain things in life. No. But it all reflects about who they are as a person and what they do in school, right?
Yeah.
So like one thing, like for example, they don't realize is like people talk, right? Yeah. If you're bad in middle school and you're going up to high school, you don't think those teachers talk? And making them realize that the what you do today is going to affect you tomorrow is one of the biggest things that we're part of one of the things that we're doing to help them realize, hey, look, your future is all based on the decisions that you're making today.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like everyone's watching, and the little things are the big things, guys.
Oh yeah.
And knowledge without application doesn't help anybody.
Exactly.
So let's transition into some networking talk here. So you are a president of the Spartanburg chapter here in Liberty Networking, correct?
I am.
Okay. What was the experience like for you starting a new chapter?
So I actually didn't start it. I was the second president, I believe. And it was about 4 people when I took over.
Something like that. Yeah.
4 or 5 people. So I did help take it off the ground and get it going. It really helped because I grew up in Spartanburg, right? So I already knew a lot of people, so I was helping them, grow their businesses too. So that kind of helped with me too. But, I tell a lot of people, it's like you get what you put in out of networking.
Yeah.
Right. And I realized that thankfully I was set up with the right people when I started doing networking. And they pushed me to start doing networking. So that it was something different that I hadn't done in the past. So I was kind of new to networking myself when I first started. But then I realized, hey, look, when you go there and don't expect anything out of it, you go there just to make connections, the business will come, right? Those people who go there expecting to get business out of it ends up get a bad taste out of networking. And, that's how they like, oh, this group isn't it, or networking isn't for me, because they're going in with the wrong mindset.
Yes.
Right.
And they just show up and say, where's the referrals? But they haven't put any work into building relationships.
Exactly.
Which is the basis of networking.
Exactly. And like majority of us, like especially me, like if I go in a room with 1,000 people, what are the chances one person needs a piece of glass?
Right. Exactly.
Probably not likely, right?
Yeah.
So it's just them remembering me creating a brand for myself, and them realizing, hey, look, when something does come up, I know the right guy to be able to do this.
Yeah. Speaking of creating a brand, the American Glass Company is all over social media. So if somebody goes onto one of these local Facebook groups and they type in GLASS, you get tagged like 15 times. How has that helped your business, and how did you get to the point where that does happen?
Yeah, so just being consistent, right? Doing these one-on-ones, showing, and I know a lot of people just tag people that they know, friends and stuff, but I'm a little bit more personable, right? When I meet somebody, or when I'm talking to somebody, I like to show them my work. I like to take them out, right? There's a lot of people in Liberty Networking that want to see my work. So I invite them out to job sites. I show them the process. I show them pictures and explain to them, hey, look, this is how I do things, right? It's much more than be like, hey, look, I just do glass. Just recommend me to everybody, right? If that person recommends me to somebody else, and if I do them wrong, I just ruin that relationship, that connection,
right?
And it's my what's that word I'm looking for? My
responsibility.
Yeah, my responsibility basically to make sure I take care of that referral. Right, because I want that person to refer me, and I want that person that just refer me to somebody else, right? So it's doing these one-on-ones and doing these relationship building meetings are extremely important to growing your business.
So you built the relationships, and you earned those tags on Facebook and so on, like in the referrals. Like it didn't just show up; you earned it.
But I mean, earning those tags, I mean, it's so much more than just like, hey, let me tell you all about my business and take you to my job site. Like you're pouring into these people too. Like you're finding out what connections that they need.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because there's no way, like everyone comes into every group with a big fat, sign, what's in it for me? And it's like, you have to be doing something in these RBMs that make people go, wow, this guy like actually really cares that I'm here. So talk a little bit about that, because you didn't just randomly get tagged because they remember you because you're so great and you have such a great business. It's because you did something extra where you made them feel like they were getting something out of it.
Oh yeah, and this is actually something I learned from John. When I first started networking, he's probably the top 5 or 10 people that I met, and it took me a while to figure out what he did. Like what he did, probably the second or third meeting, then he finally told me what he does. Right. And it made me realize, look, I'll never forget him because of the fact that every time we started talking, he was asking me about me.
Yep.
He didn't tell me what he did. He never brought himself up into it. Finally, I said, John, what do you do? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, I don't know what you do. So finally he told me, right? So now I take that, and go on every single conversation, because now I'm to the point where almost everybody I know I speak to knows that I do glass, right? How much can I talk about glass? It's glass. It breaks. If it breaks, I could fix it. If they need glass, they could call me, right? So like, I want people to remember me. I want to leave an impact on people when I have a conversation with me. So I also try to, leave them with something that's going to be able to help them, so that they'll remember me.
Yeah, you're not the only glass company out there, and people aren't buying. They're not coming to buy the American Glass Company. They're buying an Altaf Kapasi.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And there's so much competition out there. Like, if they don't use me, it's not hurt my feelings, right? It's just I want them to have a great experience, and that's what I'm trying to provide.
Yeah, that's abundance mentality. And then talking about doing the RBMs and helping people. One of my favorite lines is, "How can I help you? What can I do for you?" And that goes a long ways.
Absolutely. I mean, I've just really started diving into the world of RBMs, and that's a question that I've been really trying to challenge myself to ask, is like, hey, like what are you trying to get out of Liberty Networking? Like what is your goal being here? And for me, like I have had many past businesses, and a lot of them were very transactional, where the only reason that I would ask you out to lunch is even if I didn't pitch you the first time, it's coming. Like, and that was my mentality. And I remember when I came into Liberty, like, thankfully, we do some different things where we generate leads. So I was like, okay, I really do want to figure out how to do referrals, because I've never been able to successfully do that before. But I want to do this differently, where every relationship and every lunch isn't about a transaction. Like, how do I go in absolutely expecting nothing? And I think there's so many people out there. I mean, I've had a couple RBMs where it was like, hey, like, thanks for coming to lunch with me, and then we're in a presentation for their business, and I was like,
that's the worst.
It's the worst.
Don't sell at a meeting.
Do you have any experiences, without obviously naming any names, of any awkward RBMs?
Thankfully, not as much, because a lot of kind of, but we're not gonna talk about it. But like, thankfully, like, I'm more like, I've learned to value my time a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I tend to have RBMs now with people that are recommended to me, or that I've had a small conversation with before, that I know we could help each other. But one of the first things that I do when I go to an RBM is, similar to what you guys do. I ask them, what is your biggest struggle right now in your industry or in your business? And I try to help them out. If I can't help them out, I'm sure I know somebody that
That's
can.
right.
Right? Yeah. And that's how I want them to leave that impact with them, because I know I could do something to change their shift in the way they think about their business, or the way how they're running things.
I don't know how many people believe me, but I say literally anything you need, ask me, and I'm going to help you solve that problem. And I've gotten stumped a few times, but I know enough people to ask around to find a good connection for whatever problem they have. So
that's good. So joining a networking group in general, have you been a part of any other networking groups other than Liberty?
I recently just joined another one, but Liberty Networking was my first one that I did join. And to me, people ask me, so why did you join Liberty Networking? Right. So of all the other groups, all the other groups were expensive. I didn't know, how networking exactly worked when I first joined Liberty Networking. So I didn't want to spend all that money and not, I knew a lot of other ones take up a lot of my time. I knew Liberty Networking was a little bit more freedom in how you do networking. And that's why I decided to go with Liberty Networking. Not only that, I believed in Jimmy. I think Jimmy's a great guy. I'm not just saying that because, he's sitting in front of me, but you could ask anybody I've ever talked to about Jimmy. I think he's a solid guy. And the way he runs his organization, I think if everybody ran their businesses the way with liberty and freedom and I think the world would be such a much better place, right? So
you got the liberty to do what you want.
Exactly. And that's another thing too. That's like, somebody actually brought this up on Facebook the other day. Is like, just because you join a networking group, you have to tag them on Facebook. No, you don't. You really don't.
Right.
I'll never recommend somebody that I've never done work with, or that I know for a fact that someone I know and can trust has done work with them and vouch for them.
That's right. Elizabeth Weaver taught me you're not obligated to do business with any one person.
Yeah, no, we had somebody in here one of the other weeks, and they said that they sat down for an RBM with somebody, and the first conversation was, why haven't you provided me any referrals lately? And it's like, that's just kind of like a shocking thing to hear, sitting down for an RBM. But the honest truth was that person was like, well, technically, I have a guy I went to high school with who I have a better relationship with who's in your niche. And it's like, you haven't, built that relationship, that level of trust where, I'm going to give you business. And I think that's really important, is that there are other networking groups out there where they will shame you if you give referrals outside of your group. And at the end of the day, like, I might have our group, and we have a marketing person in our group, but my best friend might do marketing who lives in another state. And it's like, relationship comes first.
Yeah. So define, what is the purpose of an RBM?
Purpose of it, RBM, is get to know that person.
There you go. Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. Like, people make it out to be more than that, then they're not doing it right.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's good.
Talk to us about the Liberty Networking socials. Like, how can someone take advantage of that? What have you gotten out of that? What's been your experience?
I love the socials. If you look at me the past 6 months, you probably won't believe it, because I've been so busy and I haven't gone to as many as I would like to.
Yeah.
But that's what really got me in, right? Because you see a different side of people when you go into social, right? And then you also get to meet people from every different chapter.
That's true.
And that's one thing I love about it, right? It's a huge group, and the people that are in Liberty, a lot of them have been following Jimmy for a while, so they operate the same integrity that Jimmy does, and that's what I love about it too. Is like being surrounded by the same type of people that have the same mindset and mentality that you do, in one room. It's phenomenal. You walk in and it just changes the entire vibe. If you're having a bad day, or if you're having you're stuck, there's someone in that room that's gonna be able to move you or help you or get you out of that depression stage or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And it's just a great feeling.
Yeah. And there's people that's never been to a meeting that show up too and get to find out about it and everything.
Yeah. How many chapters and members do we currently have?
So we're launching chapter number 17 right now, which is in Lexington, South Carolina. So we're close to somewhere around about 150 members.
Okay.
It fluctuates a little bit every day, but
yeah. And from the socials I've been to, I've been at ones that have had 50, and I've had ones that have 90. So there's a pretty good chunk of people, and they're coming from all the different chapters, all across the upstate, which is just such a cool thing to be able to say, hey, I know there's only 10 people here at our chapter meeting today, but if you come to the social next Thursday, there'll be 90 people, and maybe you'll find somebody who's sitting in your seat in another chapter.
That's right.
Because I think sometimes people look at that as competition, but it's like I come to the social and if I find other people who are in insurance, I'm like, let's talk. Like, what are you doing? Like, how are you generating leads? What are you doing to get referrals?
Sure.
Like, talk to me about what you're doing to be successful. And,
that's good.
I think that's a big thing when you come to these socials, is like finding people in your industry and finding ways to collaborate, like not compete.
Absolutely. And one of the big things I've gotten a lot of feedback too about the socials is we support a cause at everyone. And so I call it networking with a cause.
Yeah.
And so there's a nonprofit that we bring awareness to and raise money for it at every social. So that's a big deal, and something that I personally believe in.
Absolutely. Last thing that we'll kind of talk about before we give you a chance to kind of plug yourself is it's $400 a year to join Liberty Networking. Talk about what it costs versus what it's worth.
I think cost is irrelevant to the whole thing, right? Because majority of people that join networking groups, for the cost of $400, you get one lead off of it, it's going to pay for itself.
Yep.
Depending on what you sell, you may need 2, 3, maybe 4 at most, but you should be able to do that with your RBMs and stuff like that. You should be able to get one lead, within that 1 year. If you're not, then you're not properly going around networking and talking to people and meeting people. But no, I think the value of it's the ROI of it's fantastic.
It's kind of hard to judge ROI sometimes on like relationships though. Yeah. If you make a relationship with Jimmy, or I don't know how you met Mike, but you knew someone who knew someone who knew Mike, and then there you are. Like, how do you define the ROI of networking that got you there to get you a coach, that then changed your business and changed your life?
100%. The relationships that I got just from Liberty Networking, it's worth 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Some of my closest friends, my best friends now, is because of Liberty Networking. Some of my, and the best thing about it was too, is my wife was from India. So when she came here, I already had a great group of, women and other people for her to hang out with and friends, right? So when I was joining Liberty Networking, it was also back in my mind. It's like, hey, look, who's married? Who's got good relationship that me and my wife could bond and get together with. So like that itself was just worth the investment that I paid for Liberty Networking.
So there's so much more value than just getting a specific referral. There's, that's good. I like that.
I mean, when I got in, honestly, like, I was looking for friends. Like I moved here from Oregon. I didn't know anybody, and I was like, okay, you make friends at church, all that stuff. But like, and that's cool. Like 100% make friends in your spiritual realm, and that's great. But it's a different set of friends. Like these are the people that I do my community groups with. These are the people that we serve with together. Our family time, all of that. But to then be able to find people who are like-minded, business-minded, trying to grow, like there's a huge difference between like that business owner mindset and the employee mindset
with different groups of people.
Total different relation. So I mean, just like the ROI of the connections that I've made to have people that I get to hang out with and have lunch with and do barbecues with and all of that, and then sit around the campfire and talk about business. Like you can't beat that. Like there's no ROI on that. So. It could be $400. It could be $4,000. It doesn't really matter, So, I mean, let's lastly just kind of have you tell everybody how can they get a hold of you? What specifically, if they're looking for, can they get from you? And like where can they follow you?
Awesome. So, I mean, if you guys want to reach out to me, you can reach me at 864-721-3082. It's our company line. You could call or text at any time. We have our website, theamericanglasscompany.com. We have Instagram and Facebook. Our handles are The American Glass Company. We specialize in shower enclosures, but we do any type of glass work. We do windows, we do mirrors, tabletops, we do storefronts, anything glass related, we do.
So is that custom? So if I got a shaped mirror that I want, can you do that?
Oh yeah, custom is our specialty.
Okay.
So like, a lot of people like to compare us to these box stores, like Lowe's and Home Depot and stuff, right? But then they compare the price. Lowe's and Home Depot, they get thousands and thousands of the same piece of glass, the same structure, right? So it's different, but ours is custom. Like if your wall is out 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, we cut the glass to that size. So that is our specialty. Custom mirrors, custom shower glasses, anything custom is what, I would recommend calling us for.
So in storefront, so you're doing commercial too as well now. Okay, awesome. It's good to know. And I personally have used Altaf for a couple different projects. I highly recommend, his services, quality, everything's there. You replaced a pane in my door. You worked on my bathroom. So it's good.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if anybody wants to reach out to you watching this and wants to have an RBM, can they do that too?
Yes, they can. Just tell them to reach out to me. Well, reach out to me on Facebook. Just shoot me a DM and we'll definitely set something up.
Awesome.
Well, guys, we appreciate you for listening as always. Next week, we will have another entrepreneur, business owner, professional salesperson here in the Liberty Lounge to talk about what they're passionate about and tips and tricks for networking. Until then, we will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.